Okay, so this is CPM 2, Module 1. We're getting ready to go over Lesson 6, which is two sections, 2.4 and 2.5, multiplying and dividing integers, area, and order of operations. So first we're going to fill in the blanks with the following. Number 1, the product of a negative number and a positive number. So whenever we're multiplying, remember this word product means to multiply. So whenever we're multiplying and the signs are different, it will always be a negative number. So negative is number 1. Number 2, the quotient of a negative. So remember quotient means to divide. So whenever we're dividing and our signs are different, it will still be a negative number. And I'm just going to abbreviate negative since my blank's so small. Negative number. Number 3, the product, so we're back to multiplying. When we're multiplying a negative number and 0, keep in mind when you're multiplying 0 by anything, your answer will always be 0. Number 4, when we're dividing the quotient of 0 and a negative number, so 0 divided by any negative number, that will always be 0. Okay, moving right along. Objective 1, we're going to talk about multiplying integers. So here's where we're getting ready to learn this. Whenever you're multiplying and dividing, it is the same rules, whether you're multiplying or dividing, but you do have to be careful because you have to keep these rules separate from the add and subtract rules, okay? So when we multiply and divide, if I have different signs, your answer will always be a negative. If I'm multiplying or dividing and the numbers have the same sign, it will always be a positive. So if you look at number 1, I am multiplying 7 times a negative 6. If I'm multiplying and my signs are different, remember it is always a negative. So in this case, it's going to be a negative. 7 times 6 is 42. So negative 42 is my final answer. Whereas on example 2, negative 7 times negative 6, so we're multiplying and we have the same sign. Both numbers have a negative in front. So because it's the same sign, it's going to be a positive answer, and when you multiply 7 times 6, it's 42, and we already talked about why it's positive. Example 3, negative 5 times 3. We have different signs, so it's going to be a negative, and then multiply 5 times 3 is 15. Okay. For example 4, negative 1 times negative 1, we have the same sign, so it's going to be a positive, and 1 times 1 is 1. 5 and 6, notice now we're just multiplying more than 2 digits, so whenever you're doing this, just take 2 digits at a time. So when we're multiplying, just work it left to right. However, honestly, when you multiply, order doesn't matter, so even if you didn't go left to right, that's okay. So negative 2 times 4. Different signs, right? So it's going to be a negative. 2 times 4 is 8. I'm going to go ahead and bring down that times negative 3 because I haven't used it yet. And now take these 2 digits. Same sign, so it's going to be a positive, and 8 times 3 is 24. So your final answer for example 5 is 24. Example number 6. Take 2 at a time. So negative 3 times 1 is a negative 3. Our signs are different, correct? I'm going to go ahead and just take these 2. It'll get us through the problem faster. However, if you are not comfortable with that, just bring down what you haven't used and take the next 2 numbers and multiply them. So here I'm going to go ahead and multiply negative 4 times negative 1. Same sign, so it's a positive. 4 times 1, 4. We still have numbers to multiply together, so negative 3 times 4, signs are different, so it's a negative. 3 times 4 is 12. Final answer for example 6 is negative 12. So here's where we have to be careful on number 7 and number 8. So here it's negative 4 squared. Notice the difference between 7 and 8. Just by looking at them, the difference is one has parentheses, one does not, correct? So on number 7, the only thing there are no parentheses. So what that means is there's only one negative sign, and what we're squaring is the 4, just what's right next to the exponent. So if I'm squaring 4, that means 4 times itself 2 times. So notice there's only one negative sign, 2 4 times 4s, right? 4. So you can think of this two different ways. You can think, okay, well, negative times a positive is going to be a negative. That's fine. Or some people will just multiply 4 times 4 and bring the negative back down. It's going to be a negative answer no matter what. Okay? On number 8, there are parentheses. So when there's parentheses, you square whatever is inside the parentheses. So what do you see inside the parentheses? You see a negative 4, right? Is it 4 or negative 4 in there? It's a negative 4. So that means you square a negative 4, meaning a negative 4 times a negative 4. When we actually go simplify this, our signs are the same, so it's going to be a positive, and 4 times 4 is 16. So there's a small difference here, and I know it is confusing, so let's just practice it a little more. Look at example 9 and 10. So look at 9. Am I squaring 8 or negative 8? Because there's parentheses, you square whatever you see in the parentheses. Well, I see a negative 8 in parentheses, so that means you take negative 8 times itself twice. And then here, signs are the same, so it's a positive. 8 times 8 is 64. Whereas number 10, there are no parentheses, so the square, the exponent, only belongs to 8, whatever it's right next to. So there's only one negative sign. What I'm squaring is 8, so 8 times 8. Here, no matter how you think about it, whether you take a negative times a positive or you just multiply 8 times 8 and bring the negative down, it does not matter. It's going to be a negative 64 no matter how you think about it. Okay, check out 11 and 12. So number 11, am I cubing 2 or negative 2? What's inside the parentheses? A negative 2, right? So this means negative 2 times itself 3 times. So this is what negative 2 with the parentheses raised to the third power means. If you have more than 2 digits, just take 2 at a time. So here a negative 2 times a negative 2 is a positive 4. Bring down that last negative 2 that I have not used yet. And 4 times a negative 2 is a negative 8. So my final answer here is a negative 8. Okay, check out example 12. Ask yourself, what am I cubing? There are no parentheses, so what that means is there's one negative sign. What I'm cubing is just the 2. 2 times 2 times 2. You can think of this two different ways. You can just take 2 at a time, so a negative times a positive is a negative. Bring down what you haven't used yet. Again, negative times a positive is a negative. 8 times 2, 4 times 2, 8. So our final answer is negative 8. Some people will just go ahead and multiply 2 times 2 times 2 and put 8, and just know your answer on these is going to be a negative no matter what. Because there's one negative sign, you just keep bringing it down. Okay? Objective 2, we're getting ready to divide integers, and when we do this, remember your rules are the same as when we multiply. So look at example 13. 36 divided by negative 6. Same sign or different? Different. So it's going to be a negative, and then just divide. What is 36 divided by 6? 6. Final answer, negative 6. Just remember example 14, a fraction bar just means to divide. Don't let that bother you. So here, my fraction bar means to divide, right? So you're just asking yourself, okay, what is negative 12 divided by 4? Well, signs are different, so it's going to be a negative. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Final answer, negative 3. Example 15, negative 20 divided by negative 5. Same sign or different? Same. So it's going to be a positive. 20 divided by 5 is 4. Okay, let's talk about dividing by 0 again. We've talked about this before, so this is just a great review. Remember which one's 0 and which one's undefined. That's what people get confused all the time. So as far as example 16 goes, 0 divided by negative 17. 0 divided by any number is going to be 0. I could have put it right here too, it doesn't matter. And remember, you can always check it. 0 times negative 17 is 0, so I know I did it correctly. The mistake people make on example 17 is they'll try to tell me that this is 0, and if you think about it, is 0 times 0 negative 17? No. Is 0 times anything going to give you a negative 17? No. So this is our undefined. I can't take negative 17 and divide it into no equal parts. We can't do that. And so in math, that is undefined. And so remember, when we're dividing by 0, it is undefined. Okay? Example 3, evaluate an algebraic expression by multiplying or dividing. So here, they're giving us an expression, x times y. So remember, every time I see a letter, go through and put parentheses. And then instead of x, they want me to plug in a -4. And instead of y, they want me to plug in 7. So go ahead, substitute in now, finish simplifying. Negative times a positive is going to be a negative. 4 times 7, 28. So my final answer is negative 28. Example 19, A over B. Here's what they want us to evaluate. So every time I come to a letter, I'm going to put parentheses. And this just helps as these expressions get more difficult too, if you go through and put parentheses. Instead of A, I'm plugging in 24. And instead of B, I'm plugging in -3. So here, 24 divided by -3 is -8. Signs are different, so it's going to be a negative. Next page, Objective 4, solve problems by multiplying or dividing integers. So example number 20. A professional golfer finished 7 strokes under par, which is represented as a -7, for each of the 3 days of the tournament. What was his total score for the tournament? So if you think about day 1, he finished 7 under par, right? Day 2, how did he finish? He finished 7 under par, correct? Day 3, he finished 7 under par. So what was his total score for the tournament? Well, really, this is just 7 times how many days? I'm sorry, -7 times how many days? 3 days. So -7 times 3 is -21. That's how he finished. And you can also -7 plus -7 plus -7 is -21. So different ways to think about that. Okay, objective number 5. Find the area of rectangles and squares. Area measures the number of square units that cover the surface of a plane that is a region that lies in the plane. Here's the area of a rectangular square. And we've talked about this before, so just remember, area is your length times your width. So if they want us to find the area of example 21, just remember, area is your length times your width. And honestly, it doesn't matter which one is length, which one is width. If you happen to get them confused, it's okay, because when we multiply, order doesn't matter anyway. However, length, you'll notice length is usually your longer side, okay? Your width is usually your shorter side. So here, my length is 8 times my width is 6. And what is 8 times 6? 48. And whenever we put our units on for area, your units are always squared. So here you can write inches squared. Notice it's my units that are squared, not 48. Or you could have written 48 square units. These mean the same thing. Whether you tell me 48 square units or 48 inches squared, those are the same thing. A lot of times we'll write it 48 inches squared just because it's faster to write, right? Okay, either way is fine though. Example 22, we're going to find the area of this square. So remember, we have to do length times width. So notice they only give us one side. But if we think about it, isn't a square have 4 equal sides? So if this side is 5, this side must also be 5 meters. Okay, so here area, remember area is length times width again. My length is 5. My width is 5. I'm sorry, that should be a 5 right here. Let me erase that and make that look better. I'm so sorry. Okay, so my length is 5. My width is 5. 5 times 5 is 25. And then don't forget your units. Because we're talking about area, your units are always squared. You could say 25 meters squared or 25 square meters, either way. And I put units here, and that should be inches since we know. The difference is with perimeter, remember it was just simply the units, just meters or just feet. With area, the units are squared. Okay? All right, moving on. Objective 6, simplify expressions by order of operations. So remember, we have talked about order of operations. We actually talked about this in our very first lesson of Module 1. So I went ahead and put this back on here. Our order of operation, there's 4 steps, but remember PEMDAS, there's 6 letters, but really 4 steps because multiply and divide go hand in hand, add and subtract go hand in hand. They're the same step, right? So as we practice this, just think about parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, which is 1 step, add, subtract, which is 1 step. So example 23, parentheses, do I have any? Yes, I actually have 2 sets, so I'm going to go ahead and do both sets. So we got to do what's inside parentheses first. 12 minus 8 is 4, correct? I'm going to go ahead and bring down my parentheses, my exponent. Haven't used it yet. Haven't divided yet. Bring that down. And here I have some more parentheses, so let's go ahead and simplify. 7 minus 5 is 2. Go ahead and bring down what I'm not using. So all I've done is my parentheses step 1. Step 2 is exponents. Do I have any? Yes. So go ahead and take care of 4 squared. And remember, 4 squared means 4 times 4. What is 4 times 4? 16. Bring down your division symbol. I'm sorry, my division symbol is sloppy. I'm doing my best I can. 2 squared is also parentheses, so 2 times 2 is 4. Done with our exponents. Next step is multiplication and division. Do I have any? Yeah, I just have division left. What is 16 divided by 4? 4. Final answer. Okay, number 24. Do I have any parentheses? I sure do right here. So 5 minus 8 is going to be our first step. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down negative 2 minus 5. And what is 5 minus 8? So think about your integer rules too. We have different signs. So subtract, keep the sign of the larger. So 5 minus 8 is negative 3. And think of money. If you have $5 and you want to go spend 8, you're going to be 3 in the hole, right? Okay. Done with parentheses, because what's inside parentheses I can't simplify. So next is exponents. Do I have any? Nope. Next steps is multiplication and division. Do I have any? Yes, I have some division, right? Right here I have a number right next to the parentheses, so that means multiply. So bring down negative 2. I'm not ready to use it yet. And I need to multiply, and if you ever get confused, just take the sign in front. I have a negative 5 times a negative 3. Same sign, so it's going to be a positive. 5 times 3 is 15. That way you know what sign to put right there. If it was a negative, I just would have put a minus. It's just simpler for people if they put one sign there. Don't put a plus and a minus. Just put one sign. It just helps you be less confused of what to do. We're done with multiply and divide. Last step, add and subtract. Do I have any? Yes. Addition, what is negative 2 plus 15? Different signs, so subtract. Keep the sign of the larger, so it'll be 13. Example 25. Okay, parentheses, do I have any? Yes. So I'm going to do 7 minus 4 first. So bring down what I'm not using, 4. What is 7 minus 4? 3. So that's my first step. I'm just going to bring everything else down. So if we think about step number 1, parentheses, I'm done, because what's inside the parentheses I can't simplify further. Next step is exponents. Do I have any? Yes, right here. So I'm going to bring down what I'm not using yet. 4 times 3, bring down, plus bring down. Here, think about what you're squaring. I'm squaring what's in the parentheses. So I'm thinking a negative 2 times itself twice. What is a negative times a negative? A positive. That's why I just put 4 right there. Bring down that minus 8. Haven't used it yet. So we are done with exponents. Moving on to the next step, multiplication and division. Do I have any? Yes, I have some multiplication right there. What is 4 times 3? 12. Bring down what I'm not using. We're done with multiplication and division. Add and subtract. Do I have any? Yes, you work it left to right regardless what comes first. What happens to come first is addition. 12 plus 4 is 16. Bring down what I haven't used yet. Finally, 16 minus 8 8, I'm finished. Okay, 26. Exponents first, or I'm sorry, parentheses first. So here I'm going to do 1 minus 3 and 6 minus 9 in this first step. So 4, open your parentheses. What is 1 minus 3? Think about different signs. So subtract, keep the sign of the larger. Go ahead and bring down. Again, same thing, 6 minus 9. It's going to be negative 3 because you think subtract, keep the sign of the larger. We're done with parentheses. Next step is exponent. So here's the exponent and here's the exponent. So we need to take care of both of those. So as I think about when I'm squaring these, for this first one, let me grab my pen back. So bring down 4. I'm not ready to use it because I need to take care of my exponents first. So negative 2 is what's in parentheses. So I'm taking negative 2 times a negative 2. Negative 2 times a negative 2 is a positive 4, right? Bring down minus 2, not ready to use it yet. Now I got to square negative 3, whatever's in parentheses. So think about if I have a negative 3 times a negative 3, that's going to be a positive 9. So we're done with exponents. Next step, multiplication and division. I have some multiplication. 4 times 4, 16. I have some more multiplication. And whenever you get confused, just take the sign in front. So what is a negative 2 times 9? Signs are different, so it's going to be a negative 18. That way you know what to put there, whether plus or minus. 16 minus 18 is going to be a negative 2. Okay, moving along to number 27. First of all, parentheses. Well, what's in the parentheses? There's nothing I can do to actually simplify that, so keep going to the next one, exponents. I do have exponents right here, right? Think about what I need to square. There's no parentheses there, so there's one negative sign. What they want me to square is 8, so 8 times 8 is what I'm squaring. Put the negative back on, however you want to think about it, it's going to be a negative 64. So that's a negative 64. Bring down what I haven't used yet, which is everything else. That's my divided by sign. Plus 2 times negative 2. Okay, next step after exponents is multiplication and division. And remember, work it left to right. What do you see first? Division, do that first. So bring down negative 64. I'm not ready to use it yet. I need to divide. Negative 45 divided by 5. Signs are different, so it's going to be a minus. 45 divided by 5 is 9. You can bring down this, or if you want to go ahead, since multiplication and division are the same step, work it left to right. So we can go ahead and multiply. What is 2 times a negative 2? It's a negative 4. If it was a positive 4, I would have put a plus sign there instead of that minus sign. We are done with multiplication and division. Now on to add and subtract. Work it left to right. Negative 64 minus 9, same sign, so add, keep the sign, bring down minus 4. Negative 72 minus 4, again, same sign, so add, keep the sign. So my final answer is a negative 76. Okay, moving on to objective 7, evaluate an algebraic expression. So here's my expression. Remember, every time we're doing substitution, go through and put parentheses there. Instead of m, they want me to plug in negative 3. So think about what this means. Am I taking 3 to the 4th power, or am I taking negative 3 to the 4th power? Whatever's in the parentheses. So in this case, negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. And then just take 2 at a time. A negative times a negative is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. 9 times 9, positive 81. Okay, next one, 29. And this is one that people get wrong a lot of times because they won't put those parentheses there. So put parentheses first. I'm sorry, that's a parenthesis. Let me just erase that. Start fresh. Go through your expression. Every time you come to a letter, put parentheses. Instead of x, I'm plugging in negative 4, and then you can see, oh, what's the opposite of a negative 4? A positive 4. Okay. Objective 8, find the average of a list of numbers. So the blank of a list of numbers is the sum of numbers over the sum of the number of numbers. So here it's the average. They just want you to know the definition of average. So sum means to add. So we're getting ready to add all the numbers, and we divide by the number of numbers that we're adding. For example, example 30. They want you to find the average of these numbers. What we're going to do is we got to add all these numbers up first. So what we're thinking is 8 plus -3 plus 5 plus 6 plus -5 plus 7 plus -4. Once we add that, we're going to divide by, how many numbers did I just add together? I'm sorry, I don't know why it closed. Let me open it back up. I do believe it's still recording. Okay, so 8, let's see how many numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers. So we're going to divide by 7. Okay, so now we have to go add these numbers up. So I'll take 2 at a time. What's 8 plus a -3? 5. What's 5 plus 6? 11. -5 plus 7? 2, and then plus a -4. Still we'll have to divide by 7. So if I just finish adding these up, that's going to be 16 and a -2. So 16 plus a -2 divided by 7. That's going to end up being 14 divided by 7, which is going to give me an average of 2. So the average of those numbers is 2. And I'm sorry, my room, I hope you can read that. I'm so sorry. Okay, example 31. Take these numbers, -32 plus a -10 plus a -20 plus a -2. I'm going to add that up and divide by 1, 2, 3, 4. So when I go add these, let's see, -32 plus -10, add, keep the sign. -20 plus -2, add, keep the sign. Okay, -42 plus -22, add, keep the sign, and -64 divided by 4. Notice that's my signs are different, and so when we divide and signs are different, it's always going to be a negative, and then 64 divided by 4 is 16. And if you need to go do some arithmetic right here, you can go to the side of your paper or just on some scratch paper and go do that arithmetic if you needed to. Okay, so that is lesson 6 from module 1.